Hello and welcome to my new show, A Star Sports Show. This is going to be maybe every maybe I'll do the 2 or 3 episodes a week. Let's reach high and then maybe not succeed later, as they always say, I guess. So this is going to be a sports podcast about sports shows, sports events that I've been watching over the course of a few days or the days previously. And there's going to be different discussions, there's going to be different reviews, previews, things like that, as the show goes on. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about 3 topics. There's going to be the game of the day, which is going to be England versus France, third place playoff game. The fight of the week, which is going to be the Pacheco versus Aleem fight that happened last night. And then I'm going to have a discussion of the day, which today's discussion is, have the Connecticut Sun, which is actually my team, turned a corner and are New York Liberty in their worst slump of their history, or their recent history. So first we'll touch on the game of the day, which was an incredible game and probably needed to be the final after England beat France 6-4, which is like 10 goals is very rarely seen soccer these days, or football these days, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it started, like, I think the best way to put it is France was very lackluster in defence, and they were playing with a high line, and England just were dominating in their final third constantly because they kept giving the ball away, and they were just playing awful in the first half, France, and they ended up being down, I think it was 4-0 by the end of the first half. So it was quite a surprise to everyone, I think. I think everyone thought France had just given up. They were just not bothered enough about the third place and things like that. And then they surprised everyone by coming back in the second half. It was quite an impressive turnaround, and I think it got to, I forget what it got to. I think it was maybe, was it 4-3 or something like that, I think. And then England ended up getting, I think they ended up getting a penalty, which made it 5-3. And then Dembele scored. Oh no, somebody scored before that and it made it 6-3, and then Dembele scored after that. Yeah, Bellingham scored. He came off the bench and scored and made it 6-3. And then I think Dembele scored after that, and everyone thought, oh, they're back in it. But no, it was only 2 minutes after the game. So yeah, overall it was a very good game. And if this was the first game you would watch of football, then you were really in for a treat. And this is not what you usually see in football. 6-4 games are not that common. So yeah, overall that was a good game, and England came in the highest position since 1966, winning tournament. So yeah, it's been a very successful World Cup for England. I would say France underwhelmed in what they hoped, and maybe England overwhelmed. I don't know. I just feel like they've been pretty, when you think about it being third place and you think about how that actually is in the Olympics and things like that, then they've done a very good going. I would have liked them to make the final, but you can't have things always the way you want them. So yeah, overall I think they've done pretty well to have done how they did. So moving on, the fight of the week. was Pacheco versus Aleem. So this was a very interesting fight because everyone was saying how in order to keep things interesting in his weight class and to also maybe make him available for a title fight or a world championship or whatever you want to call it. I'm not too familiar with boxing. I don't know enough to really be familiar. I'm more familiar with football. But Pacheco had to basically knock out Aleem in this fight, which, as I'll say later, did end up happening. But it was actually more of a slugfest, and then he was knocked out later in the fight near the end. But I would say Aleem probably lasted longer than he should have really lasted, because I think the referees probably might have been better calling it earlier, because it was just, he was basically dominating the whole fight, and Pacheco and Aleem just didn't have a whole lot against him. But going back to the earlier bouts in the round, I forget who played, but the first fight, forget who fought, but the first fight was pretty competitive and was quite interesting. I forget who it was. And then there was a KO, I think, in the second fight, which was an early KO, and it was basically happened because he was just dominating. He just was taking him to shreds. It was just no competition whatsoever, and that's why the referee just had to call it. He knocked him down a few times, and then the referee let him get up a couple of times, but then it was basically no point trying anymore. You're just not in the same league as this person. And I forget who the fighters were for those two fights, but I'd have to look it up. But yeah, the three fights before the Pacheco fight weren't as interesting, and then the Pacheco fight came, and it showed how much Pacheco should be noticed in the boxing world, because he once had an opportunity, I heard on the commentary, for a title fight in the past, but he said he wasn't ready for it and he wanted to be more ready. So now I think he's close to being ready and should be given an opportunity. So yeah, overall it was a good fight and a good card. So yeah, I highly recommend looking up some highlights. Then my last thing of the episode today is the discussion of the day. Have the Connecticut Sun turned a corner, and are New York Liberty in their worst slump of their recent history? So to start this discussion off, I'd like to say how the record for Connecticut Sun was something like 5-15 or something at one point. I can't remember what it was like, but it was bad. And Connecticut Sun being my team, and the fact that they let go a bunch of players that were basically their title-winning team. It's kind of sad how they were turning out. But yeah, the last 2 or 3 matches they've won, and it just looks like they're possibly changing the cards and getting to be more of a team now. And it's looking kind of hopeful, but we'll see how it turns out. I don't know who they played those matches, and if they were easier teams or anything, but it's a possibility that they might be turning a bit of a corner. We'll see over the next few matches and see how it pans out. But yeah, they've had a few wins that weren't thought to happen. And then again, contrasting, New York Liberty have, I think, lost the last 4 games, including last night where they lost against Indiana Fever. So, yeah, I don't know if the teams they were facing were just more difficult, which is a possibility, because Indiana Fever is one of those harder teams. So yeah, I just think they might have a bit of a problem. I don't know if they have any injuries either, and if they've had a lack of people on their team. But yeah, it's dire straits for New York Liberty at the minute. So anyway, I'd like to end this podcast episode for now, and we will talk in a few more days. Or maybe tomorrow, or maybe the next day. We'll see. See you later. Bye.